in the relationship between the Catholic Church and Judaism represented by the Conciliar Declaration Nostra Aetate, was at least partly brought about by a Jewish initiative, namely the meeting between Pope John XXIII and the Jewish historian Jules Isaac on 30 June 1960, when he presented the Pope with a memorandum urgently requesting a new view of the Church relationship with Judaism. Only a few months after this meeting, Pope John XXIII commissioned the German Jesuit Augustin Bea on behalf of the Secretariat for Christian Unity, which we headed, to prepare a declaration on Judaism for the Council. The text proposal that had been drafted in the meantime was protested by the Arab side and above all by the Council Fathers who lived in the Middle East, who objected that such a declaration should not only concern Judaism, but must also say something about Islam. And other Council Fathers suggested that all non-Christian religions should be taken into account in a Council declaration.
And I don't mean that they couldn't have imagined Jerusalem as the capital of the sovereign state of Israel. They, like their ancestors for 2 millennia, they, like their ancestors, dreamed about it and prayed for it. I mean they could not have imagined Jewish and Catholic leaders gathered together, marking 60 years of a relationship without precedent in nearly 2,000 years of shared and painful history. This, no one dreamed. 60 years. We've lived long enough now that there are generations who never knew a world without Nostra Aetate. They take for granted what their predecessors could not have imagined. That is both our achievement and our challenge. To understand what changed, we must remember what was. For centuries, the official theology of the Church required Jewish diminishment. The accusation of deicide passed from generation to generation. Crusades left the Jewish communities in ashes. Inquisitions and autos de fe, forced disputations whose verdicts were written before they began. Conversionary pressure framed as love. The image of the wandering Jew, preserved in misery as theological witness. I don't recite this history to reopen old wounds. I recite it because without it, we cannot understand the magnitude of what Nostra Aetate accomplished. The Council Fathers did not merely change a policy. They reversed a current that had flowed for centuries.
The many dead and wounded present us with a situation very different from that which existed when Nostra Aetate was promulgated. We must speak honestly about this turning point in our relations. And we have just begun in this meeting, and I think we are on a good way. For it is precisely in such situation that it's necessary to continue the dialogue. Pope Leo XIV already expressed his conviction during his meeting with representatives of other churches and religions after the celebration of his inauguration as Bishop of Rome. I quote, "Even in these difficult times, marked by conflict or misunderstanding, it is necessary to continue this valuable dialogue with vigor." Nostra Aetate and the documents that followed this declaration on the Catholic side commit us such mutual knowledge and appreciation. In our view, Nostra Aetate is and remains the decisive compass for Catholic-Jewish relations. The documents published on the Jewish side, mentioned at the beginning, which comment on Catholic-Jewish dialogue from this perspective and contribute Jewish perspectives, point in the same direction. These documents are also a welcome sign of the willingness to continue to cultivate and deepen the unique relationship between Catholics and Jewish in a fruitful dialogue in order to lift the common spiritual heritage of Jews and Christians, to bear witness to it in today's troubled world in need of shalom in the Middle East, and in particular for the Israeli and the Palestinian people. We must reflect together on what we mean by war and peace. Only in this way we can stand together in the service of peace and justice in the world. We are called to this together by the Most High, as Psalm 85 reminds us. Mercy and faithfulness meet, rightness and peace embrace. Thank you for your attention.
By itself, it required human beings willing to take risks. On June 13, 1960, a French Jewish historian named Jules Isaac, then 83 years old, had a private audience with Pope John XXIII. Isaac's wife and daughter had been murdered by the Nazis. In the years since, he had devoted himself to documenting what he called the teaching of contempt. He came to Rome with a dossier and a plea that the council address this wound. Pope John listened to Rome. The murder of families in their homes, of young people at a music festival, of grandparents and infants. And the aftermath, as we buried our dead and searched for our hostages, we watched anti-Semitism surge throughout the world with a ferocity we thought belonged to the past. In that moment, we needed our friends. We needed clear voices. Some we heard, and we will not forget them. Pope Francis, for example, met with hostage families, and that mattered. But there were also words from friends we trusted that caused real pain. Statements that seemed to equate victim and aggressor, language that hesitated to name Hamas's intent, silences where we longed for clarity. Old asymmetries we feared had returned. I will not catalog our grievances on the stage, but I will say this, that despite them all, we stayed in the room. When it would have been easier to walk away, we chose to remain. Because 60 years of relationship, though strained, held. Perhaps this is the deepest teaching of Nostra Aetate. It did not promise us agreement, it promised us relationship. Relationships weather disagreement. They do not survive abandonment. We are still here, together in Jerusalem.
Aware of what was happening in Gaza, is a humanitarian catastrophe. You know, we speak always about the 17,000 who died, but I think about 90% or 80% of the houses, there were really big suffering on both sides. Families of the hostages, all the soldiers, these young people who went to war, many of them are wounded, crippled because of the war, traumatized. Really, it's on both sides a catastrophe. And I think the capacity to communicate could help us a lot. Such relationship can be very positive in such situations.
And how, and I could make an argument that there was good and there was not so good. And Rabbi Dratch detailed that a bit, and there's more to say about that, but not here. But one thing is certain, that the Catholic Church and the Jewish people both need to work much harder on understanding one another. The Jewish people making sure that the Catholic Church understands our inseparable connection to this land and to the sovereignty of the Jewish people and what that means. And we understanding more and encouraging the Catholic Church to explain further what their relationship is to this land and the covenant of the Jewish people with this land. So sounded a little theoretical, but in truth, these are the real issues that need to be resolved. I'm very optimistic about this, as I always am, because I've learned something about Catholic-Jewish relations over these 60 years. It always looks like it's about to implode.
Turn to music. For music is older than all our disagreements. It is a language spoken before any doctrine, a bridge built before any dialogue. Long before we found the words to bless one another, we already knew how to sing. In this land, where prayers in Hebrew, Arabic, Greek, Latin, and other languages rise from neighboring rooftops, where church bells, the muezzin, and the chants of our synagogues weave through the same morning air, we sense that melody is the most natural meeting place of the human spirit. Music never asks who we are before it invites us in. It simply opens a space where hearts may recognize one another.
Those generations are an ancient call and dream to Nostra Aṭaṭa. As the beautiful commentary in the Yerushalmi Talmud of Eretz Israel and in Hasidic tradition teaches, that this is what the Torah always says: listen, Shema. Wherever you are, in any circumstances, the most precious thing to Hashem, to God, is one, echad. It is His most precious number, one, echad. For if it is not each one, it is no one. Therefore listen to each and every one, created in His image, and connect and protect each and every life, the holiness of each and every life, to be echad, to be one. So tonight in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, the city of the Holy Land,